welcome back. How are you? How have you been?
What a day. That's, I haven't had a day like today in a long time. Um, I'm, I'm speechless and not speechless. And wow, it's made me, it just makes me excited for the new days and the new ways to come. And it's been a bit challenging the last week physically. So, um, not just for myself, but for a lot of the family animals and just, our environment, what's happening.
Yeah.
But it's just been, today really went off literally like a bang. It's interesting because I had someone send me this lovely lady called Girl in the Universe, and she always sends out all the magnetics and solar flares, and she does all the graphs for it. And they sent it through, and the words she used were the words that I had through the evening. So I can't. I, I'm in the car all day with my husband and Ginger today on a road trip, and the whole time in the bus, I kept saying to them, "You just you can't explain it, can you? You can't explain it." And they're just going, "Mum, we've given up explaining it nowadays." It's just, how can it cross over so many fields? How can it do this? From phone calls to beings to the Bible, how does it do this? And the only thing that I can keep putting it down to is it's just the cosmos or universe's way of just saying, you're on the right track, you're on the right track, you're on the right track. Might feel different, it might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but you're on the right track.
That's beautiful. Can you explain a little bit, if you will, about what those dots of connection are to a degree, so we have an idea of what's been happening for our lovely Elsa?
Yeah. Well, I knew there was, as of, I think it was the 27th of June, I knew it was a new energy in, like I just felt it go, switched over. And then it's like it took a while to get into our bodies. A few of the family members were ill. Quite a few of the pets are ill, like quite seriously ill. Um, it's hard when the horses are ill because they're so big and we're so small compared to them. So it's quite you have to be alert because you don't want them falling on you, or because they're literally falling over.
Oh,
Yeah, and we all get through it and we all work through it. Sometimes it sounds mean or horrible, but we just work our way through it. And today was a day where everything had been feeling for the last week a little bit like I've talked about probably before in interviews, a stalemate where nothing seems to be happening. Everything's on hold. No one's answering emails or confirming anything, or money hasn't come in, or something someone had promised is on delay. But today, as soon as I made an act to the cosmos, that's our kids cooking dinner. As soon as I made an act to the cosmos, it, it we had confirmations start straight away, and everything just started to steamrolling, and gifts presented, like things we had been waiting for the family gifts. We got water because we were running really low on water. Uh, yeah, and things that I didn't understand from maybe 2 years ago cleared up. Like all the answers just came through.
wow.
Plus things, yeah. So I guess, why is this important? to show others, yes, watch astrology, yes, watch what's happening in the world, yes, watch what's happening through outer world energy, but then go, okay, now how can I put my spin on it, or my version of it, or my show on it, and take it and use it in the best way that you can for you. And that's what we did by just doing an act of a few groundings, a few clearings, and then it just all went bang, 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 bang. How
So
can
in a
something
way,
be? Sorry.
it's like out of space-time, but connecting with it. And it seems that there are energy waves that have a stalemating effect in whichever way you look at that, through astrology or whatever, there's like a timing to it, but it's also out of time. And sometimes, like you say, it takes an act or an offering or a breakthrough with intention that can chip away, and like an egg being cracked and open to allow the flow. Would you agree with that?
More so than ever. You couldn't have put it in a better way, Jude. It's literally timeless, but that stalemate feeling feels like you're held in time.
Yes.
It's like no man's land. And as you know, as humans, we go, what are we doing wrong? Are we not doing something right? And you go through all that, and it's not. Sometimes you're not meant to be doing anything. You're just meant to. And we it's always when you're feeling a little run down too, you get frustrated and you're wanting things to move ahead, but you really shouldn't be doing anything. So the universe really has got our back. Again, it's, I could get really angry at everything that's going on if they make the kids sick, or make us run out of water, or the plants are dying. Or, I could go that way too. It's very easy to go that way.
It's such a
doesn't
test of
work.
faith, isn't it?
It just
Really
doesn't
is.
work.
I wonder if at this
doesn't.
moment I should read a little bit of your bio for those that maybe haven't joined us for our first session. Is that all right with you? So for those that haven't heard or want to hear it again, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Elsa. She calls herself, with her website, spinbeings.com, talks about the ions, IONS, in the body that spin and how that relates to reality and where we're at. Elsa is a family member, a wife and a mother, with 10 experiences altogether, living on a farm in Byron Bay, Australia, or near Byron Bay. And she has 8 children with her husband, Richard. Both Elsa and Richard have been international fashion photographers and videographers, shooting celebrities for magazines and advertising, behind the scene professionals for over 3 decades. So she's been up there with the celebrities and filmmakers and actors, etc. They've had many moments to adjust to all of this info that's been coming through for them, because they are all awakened with oversouls that have come to be as a family for the second time round in this lifetime. Anything I'm not saying right, Elsa, please correct me. So they're finding a tighter space now for all the frequencies that are downloading, which is much harder on their bodies, atoms, etc. And they're finding ways to share, to raise everyone's frequencies in this important time, and assisting many within this process. The last film they worked on, interesting, was The Matrix. And they filmed that where they lived in Sydney at the time. And both Richard and Elsa know many of the characters Neo, Mr. Smith, White Rabbit, and Red Dress Woman. So back in 1997, Elsa was told by an astrologer that she and her husband were both king and queen. People see you as royalty, but you are not. And it was hard for her to put into words. She could not explain it. And she also said we would live on a hill in the country and stop traveling. They stopped traveling a few months prior to September 11th. She said all governments and religions would shut down and there would be chaos. She also said that in 2022, 2023 was huge globally for them, and they would be world known. She thought that she meant fashion shoots. Who knew, right? Stars were telling us all along. The beings, they knew it all. So it was more than just fashion shoots. And this family is going viral and have just some amazing insights with their awakened abilities to help humanity, which is just so needed at this time. And we honor you and your family, Elsa, for all that you're doing and gifting to the world. I wonder if you would like to start with the lovely story of your family with the blue marbles, if you will, about finding blue marbles on the property.
Well, that was a stalemate moment too, because we were shifting. So we were shifting from our home. We had to shift because of the Lismore floods, so it was kind of forced shift. I'm going to backtrack from that.
Yeah, sure.
We did clearings and groundings before the Lismore floods. And the day that we were told that we had to shift, we did a really big one. And we did a big one there. Again, we were taken there again today. So I'm just finding, now I'm getting all excited. With the blue marble, the girls went out. The girls love finding crystals. We're going down the creek to look for crystals, and the two youngest can dive underwater and hear sirens. We call them sirens, freshwater and saltwater. And the sirens will play with them. There's all different ones. There's not just one type. They come back and tell us different coloured hair or different garments or different structured bodies. Sometimes they're not normal. They sound scary, but they're anyway. So they'll give them missions sometimes, or gifts, or tell them secrets or codes, or where they could find a gift on land. They'll ask them to heal water locations. Anyway, this time they showed them, they came up with crystals, but they came running back from the creek, and I think there was 6 girls, 6 of them. We have just seen the biggest footprints, and they had 5 to 6 huge footprints. I think they were like 50 or 60 centimeters in length. They were big. And the next day I went down and they showed me where the and they were huge. They were big. Not toes though, and not shoes. You could tell it was something not us. And I went, okay, well now I've seen it, so I'll do a spin. So I actually spun where I had seen so the girls are all in the creek again. So this is day 2. They're all in the creek. And I did my 33 spins on the spot because I didn't know what else to do. So I thought, I'll just do a little spin. I look down at my feet and I find a huge agate. In the agate had a water line in it, level water line, and it had a Egyptian mummy sitting up like from awakening. I
Wow.
was like, wow, this is pretty. I said thank you to the giant ones or the mountain ones, and that was it. And then we went into this stalemate mode again, and we were in the moving process, so moving between two homes, and it was a bit of a job because we've got 80 chickens, 10 horses, 3 dogs, 8 cats, then the kids, and then there's cutlery and clothes. I forgot about the clothes. And so yeah, it was just this bit of a job, and we're having trouble getting the landlord to release the bond, and just do silly stuff like that, that you don't need when you shift. You're stressed enough when you're shifting,
Yeah.
like there's one chicken that won't get in the pen when you want to shift. You had one cat go missing. Anyway, I was on a Zoom through the shift moving process, and they started talking about the giant ones. They were really excited about these footprints, as was the girls, to let people know about these giant ones because it's exciting. And they said, oh, do you know about the blue marble in the USA? And I went, no. And this blue marble is the Sasquatch being. And apparently it's not just one person, it's throughout USA. They leave blue marbles. So I thought, that's a great story. I'm going to tell the girls. So I was going between the two homes, and I said the story to Jeannie, the littlest of the Dillons. And she looked at me and went, oh yeah, Jack and I find blue marbles all the time on the farm. And I went, Jeannie, we have been here for 5 years. What's with the blue marbles? And she goes, it's not the cat eye ones, it's the galaxy ones. And I always knew about marbles, but I didn't realize the difference. There's the cat eye ones and the galaxy. And it was particularly the galaxy, which is the same as the USA one. And I said to
Excuse me, Linda. Can you mute, please, Linda?
I wasn't our kitchen. So I said to Jeannie, I said, do you have any of those blue marbles? She goes, yes, I do. I said, well, maybe we should just take them back and put them where we saw the footprints. Maybe that will help. So in between the one run back, we just stopped on the side of the road, or on our, it was a kilometre driveway. And we stopped and we put the marbles on the ground. And we went, there you go. Thanks for lending them to us. You guys are great. And then we just went back into crazy shifting mode. Well, it was one of those days, within an hour of us doing that, everything out, money went in the bank account, approvals came through, electricity got turned on, all within an hour. I just can't explain it.
That is amazing.
All because we put a blue marble and we acknowledged it. So we acknowledged it first, then we acted. So we act with our now meant. So we act now acknowledgement. So we're acting with understanding. So we're conscious with our ions. I'm being very specific about these words because it's really this basic. Put the blue marble on the ground. Thank you. Drive off. That's it. We're not even talking an hour, or I didn't call in anyone. I didn't sing. I just turned to Jeannie and said, do you think that's enough? And she went, yep, that's fine. Come on, let's go. Let's go get that chicken. And so this is what happens.
Yeah.
And the reason I share this is and this is, I talked about this with Richard today in the car with Ginger. It's this discipline and affiliation with abundance is a really big one to get your head round in this ascension process. And it's one that actually can hold you back from it, because you go, but I've got bills to pay. I've got to be responsible. And I get it. I really do. But we've also had a lot of things when we kept forcing things or making things work, we just had it taken away. Like COVID took our shooting life away straight away. The financial crisis in '08 took all our homes away. It took all us, everything off us straight away. So we had to start all over again. So then we build it all up again, and then it gets shut down again. So I go, okay, so obviously I'm meant to have these skills, but I'm just not meant to do it that way. So you have to work through where you are now and take those tools and use them for the highest good.
It's such a trust walk, isn't it?
Oh, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But the best way to know is it a continual stalemate? Like if you're having a stalemate for a long time, then there's something that maybe needs to be reshuffled in the house, moved on. You may need to eliminate something in your diet. You just have to, you can't have stalemate for your whole journey here. I mean, you could, but it'd be really hard. Last week was hard.
Yeah. I think we are in a stalemate period in a way, but it can also be a jumping board to be more that we truly are. And I love the idea of an intent with an offering, because in the giving, we have the getting. And we don't just do it for all the getting, but there's a reciprocation. It's like if you have no food and you go next door with some apples, they might say, oh, look, I've just made a pie. Would you like to take that back? And it kind of flows. So the giving, the gifting seems very, very important if you want to get.
Well, I mean, Jude's amazing because like I said, when I met Jude, she said she was waiting for funding, and I was like, oh, they're not telling me that. They're telling me that you have to act. And that's one thing that us humans do, is we wait for something to happen, then we act. We have to reverse the spin on this now and go, okay, I'm going to act with intention as this is going to happen. And if it's not meant to happen, it won't happen. And so, another really great word we use is unconditional. So we do it unconditionally. So I gave that blue marble unconditionally. I didn't give the blue marble expecting all that to happen. No. But it did.
Yes.
But that's when I speak to someone too, when I put out all these videos and information, it's unconditional. It makes no difference to me what anyone else really feels about this information, because I'm putting it out unconditionally as an act to other beings because I care. Yeah. And I like seeing people smile when they work something out. Like when I work something out, it feels nice. It feels good. And it seems to be really working. So
I'm very pleased.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with all that you're doing and assimilating, so lovely that the higher frequencies, beings, have your back.
Mm. Well, I had Fleet come over. So Fleet is I had 15 to 20 go over when I was speaking first with Jude in a session. Then I had them go over again, and I had them go over again 2 nights ago.
Oh.
And I was like in stalemate mode going, what am I going to do? What do you want me to do? You got to give me some clues here, because I'm a bit run down. what's the clues? So they gave me the clues, all right. And then I said, okay, well, now I have the clues. How am I going to actualize this today? So 11 o'clock last night, they gave me all the clues. I went, it just was like a light bulb going off. I was like, how could I not see all that? So I'm sure they laugh at us things. I'm sure they're always laughing at us. And anyway, so I had all the clues and I said, now for me to make this happen and do this, I'm gonna have to have some proof or a reason to go and do this, because it's going to cost us money to drive, and we're going to be gone the whole day. And we were gifted 2 things, so we had to go and collect them, and it was at all the same locations. And I was like, wow. Well, there you go, thank you. So wow. I didn't have to prove anything to anyone in the family. We just had to go there. And I was like, oh, by the way, can we just stop here?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So within less than 1 hour of us doing it, this always seems to happen. It started raining. It's not forecast to rain till Friday here. We haven't had rain for a long time, so we're waiting. I keep saying, kids, go out and do some rain dances.
Yeah, exactly.
Get those frogs singing. But so as we were driving home from the locations today, it started raining on the windscreen, and Ginger's like, Mum, you're getting fast.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I wonder if you would like to talk about the Egyptian connection, the Anubis phase, the historical realms and sacred sites. I know you talk about a person called Neph, who I'm assuming is Nefertiti. You can tell me if I'm wrong. But would you like to talk a bit about that connection with yourself and your family, please? And the bigger picture of that.
Well, Dad's Egyptian, and my dad always said that the stars built the pyramid, which I love. It's so nice. But that was all we knew about ETs, really, until 2011. We learned about angels and ETs through happening that happened with the electrical meter box on the house. Within 2 weeks of that happening, I met Neph through the mirror, and I just went, oh. The family were like, you just have been breastfeeding for too long. you need some minerals. You're losing the plot. Yeah. At first I thought it was Cleopatra, because I didn't know I wasn't very good with my Egyptology. But I knew who she was, though. So there was a familiarity with her. Her voice, I knew it wasn't me. It was someone other than me. One, because I can smell her, and her voice is different, but I never see her eyes. That's one thing I find really interesting, is we never see each other's eyes. I can see the other members' eyes, but not hers, and I'm presuming that's the same with her. It's what it feels like anyway. So why am I talking to an Egyptian queen? I've got nappies, I've got dishes. We shifted to Byron in the country. Why am I speaking? And then they started showing me that it's not just me, it's the whole family. And I was like, how can this be possible? And why does it have to be them? Like, it's so cheesy. And as I started to learn about them, I was like, well, this is a predominant family. Then they showed me the kids' order of their sexes and ages is exactly the same. Then I started seeing the personalities the same hobbies. And this is just uncanny. This is
wow.
This went on for 6 years. So this wasn't processed. This wouldn't leave me alone. and it didn't get less, it only got more, got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then gradually the craft experiences got bigger and bigger. So it wasn't ETs really that came through first. So were they training us? Has she been with me all along? Yes.
Is
She
she
takes
another
me
part of you, would you say?
the way I've been shown is that you have this higher self or your essence or your flavor of you, and you come in and you flavor the hydrogen ions in your body. So that's the sense. That's why the animals go up and smell you, because they're smelling each other's scents. And it's a big thing on the farm. Everyone's smelling everyone. So your senses flavor the hydrogen ions. And that sense is your oversoul coming in. So they showed me that we've incarnated twice here. Every family member in the Dillon family have incarnated twice. We kept checking to see if they did, and it was only twice. They've only incarnated in this realm twice. I mean, I didn't even know really what the word incarnated was, so I had to look up a lot of this stuff because I wasn't in spiritual groups like this. We had to work all this out with no spiritual guidance whatsoever. I mean, who are you going to talk to about this stuff?
Yeah.
And so it's odd. I did talk to my close family, childhood friend. I only told her a tiny bit about it and never spoke to her again. So I knew that this isn't ready. This wasn't ready to be spoken of. I also went through a quite almost a depression stage with it because history told me that their outcome was not good for the family. So then they had to show me history undoing itself.
Wow.
And that was really clever. That was that blew me away because they taught me how to do my own regress. So now I can act with, instead of it just being random, her and I meeting each other, now we are acting and going into each other's realms more with purpose, because she was learning as well. It wasn't just me either. It was odd. The whole thing was odd. First we turned up as orbs with each other, ghosts, shadows, mirrors, and then it became side by side, and then it just was there all the time. So
if I can interject a little bit, it reminds me a little bit, and tell me if it's similar, with Dolores Cannon, who spoke with Nostradamus in real time. So he was speaking from, was it the 15th or 16th century? I'm not sure. Someone can correct me. To Dolores Cannon when she was alive. And they were speaking together in the moment. Would you say that was similar with you and Nefertiti, or is it something different?
well, it's amazing that you said her, because she's a doppelganger of my grandmother, and everyone says, oh, well, she's a doppelganger of everyone's grandmother, but she actually looks, talks, and her body language, her hand language, how she blinks, Dolores, because I met Dolores when she was alive. So her heart was still here. I only saw probably 10, 15 minutes of her, and I just went, oh, someone else is doing realm traveling, if that's what it's called. So then it was like, okay, well, she's a respected lady, so I'll just work with it within the family, and there's no need. There was no need for us to share it. We didn't need to have attention or be in the limelight or anything like that. It was just like, you know, speak to Neff, do the dishes, put another load of washing on, go do a photo shoot. Like it wasn't, so it became our normal. It wasn't this big deal.
So you were
it is a
having
big deal.
real conversations with her?
Or yeah, just, but also assistance as well.
Lovely.
To each other. Yeah.
Lovely.
So I would help heal in her land and then her do the same here.
Wow. That's huge.
Yeah, it was he. Well, that was the way I proved it to the family. Because don't forget, Mum's still crazy. she's the breastfeeding mum. Look at her. She's speaking to mirrors and animals. Like,
but
they love me.
This is a beautiful bombshell. You're healing Nefertiti and those around her in her time, while she's healing you and whatever's happening here in our time. Am I hearing correctly?
Yes, and
that's amazing.
What happened? One of the big ones, which started it with the family, and this was probably 2014. I did a regress, and then I told the story over, you know, a cup of tea or something to a few other family members, and then within probably less than I think it was a few hours, they're like, Mum, come and have a look at the news. And they turned on the news and there was something about Nefertiti and how they had cleared all the mold, or there was mold in the tomb of Tut, and she had actually healed me because I had mold in my lungs. There's a word for it, I think it's called. Yeah, so so then it started happening. That was really good because that helped our family to understand that history is not what it seems. No. It's not what you think. And time is not what you think. And they said, so you can change history. And I said, oh, apparently so. So, and then it started to become more and more on the media. Things would reverse or change from things we had done.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like the butterfly effect in two realms now, which is like,
wow. This is blowing my mind in a fabulous way.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, think about mine, because I'm still not talking to spiritual people when this is happening. So who do you tell? I tell the family and they're like, oh, really? Do we have to hear about them again? So you got it's comical for me because I'm seeing it from my family's point of view.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm teasing the family all day today because I'm going, you've got 6 hours, Ginger, with just Mum. And she's like, oh. Please make her be quiet.
The thing I love is this is happening consciously. So from my perspective, I can intend something to happen and know that will be followed through on if it's for the highest good. But you're able to consciously work through time and space, or through to the other side where there is no time and space as such, to move through quantumly, which is amazing.
Because it's
and
been
you just do it.
on,
and you just do it.
Yeah. we just it's not just me though, they all do it.
Wow.
And even if they don't want to do it and they don't like talking about it, it still happens for them.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So today we've been going to this place to get honey for 10 years. And today the farmer was there, and I think he's about 70 or 80. He's one of the traditional farmers of the land. Richard starts talking to him. Richard's so good. He's a really good listener. He starts talking to him. This farmer, who's from a well-known farming family on the land, has been seeing craft and ETs in his paddocks for years. He rings up his neighbours and sees if they're okay. One of his neighbours has went missing for 3 hours on a craft. He started just spilling the beans. We've never seen this farmer before. And it was getting honey, which is one of my favourite things. I was in sacred lands on top of the day that we had just had.
Wow.
And I got out the car and I went out and shook his hand and I said, we've been talking about this globally now for a year. And he said, well, I don't think they're going to hurt us because they would have hurt me ages ago by now. And he goes, I've come out with my shovel and okay, so I don't think it's going to make much a difference. They're kind of big. Some of the craft are really big. And
Wow.
he's like us. He's so matter of fact about it. It just happens, but he still has to go and dig over there or put the buckets up or, put the tractor away. Like life doesn't just stop once you see one.
No.
But he rings the neighbors on the hills to check if they're okay as well.
That's beautiful.
Because he said some of them are really he was like, some of them are overwhelming. He said some of them really shake him up.
Yeah.
And I said to him, then he started asking me questions. And I said, you just keep watching over here. Around the 21st to the 25th, something big's going to happen right here. And he was like, really? And I said, yep. And Richard said, we are going to be coming back on the 26th to hear the story.
Wow.
But that was probably my first just normal person that I've met that wasn't in the social media scene and I just met him and he just opened up.
Beautiful.
A day-to-day person.
Beautiful.
And he said he can't talk about it with anyone. He
Well,
can talk about
now.
it with his neighbours.
He can now. And you can too, which is a lovely thing.
Well, I mean, what's been going on is really ridiculous. It is. My kids go, how is what's going on accepted by other humans? I've got like an 9-year-old telling me this, who was 2 or 3 years younger, saying the same thing. How do humans believe all this rubbish going on? So, yeah.
I'm glad.
He said, well, don't worry, Mum. You don't look as crazy now. You're all good.
And it won't go on forever.
No, it's just a change. It's a changeover.
It is a changeover, absolutely. And we're right in the middle of it. Would you like to talk about your time when you were taken for that little while when you went up on a craft? Do you remember any of that, or who took you, or where you went, what that was about?
Yeah, that was a doozy. That was November 2017, and I went outside, and it was I love going outside at night. I used to be really scared of the dark, but since we've shifted up here, I'm just pulled outside. Anyway, I would go outside and I was in the herd with the horses, and can you hang on 1 second?
Yes, sure.
Guys, can you keep it down? They've had a big day too, so it's hard not to have all the. It's a very exciting day. Yes, I went out in the paddocks, and then the animals, the horses went in a circle around me, which from natural horsemanship, that there's danger coming because they protect mode. And I went, wild dogs, so I should go back inside because the wild dogs can come in a pack of 15. And one wild dog usually is scared of a human, but more than one, they will attack. But I felt quite safe because all the horses were in a herd. And if anyone's been around, we have 3 Shetland ponies, and if anyone's ever been around a Shetland pony, I felt very safe. But then they started sniffing the ground, so I thought, this is a storm coming. then they stopped sniffing the ground, and then they started actually looking up in the sky. And I thought, because I've never seen a horse look up in the sky, they just don't look up at the sky. And so I started looking up, and then I started watching the sky change. The sky changed from being stars to like a black mirror, and I could see energy between the stars. So now they're starting to have blue shoots of like they look like veins. Can one more second? I'm just going to ask. Even when I'm not on a Zoom, I'm saying the same thing. They're just
Anyway, it's all good.
You can hear me okay? Yeah.
I can, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So I could feel a humming feeling or a pulse because it was making the hair move on top of the horses. But it took up, we were on a valley of 200 acres. So it filled the valley, but I could just see the edges to make definition of stars and black mirror. I was like, wow, this is huge. It was moving north, south to north. And I still felt safe because the horses were there. And I woke up in bed.
Wow.
And I was like, what's going on? And it went from being full night and me looking up to instantly being in bed. I was like, this is really bizarre. And it was morning, and Richard goes, so how did you sleep? And I went, I had the weirdest dream. And I told him about the dream. I said, but I went outside, but now I'm here and with you. He goes, so was it a dream or were you outside? And I said, I don't know. And he goes, well, if you were outside, that's the biggest craft we've seen to date. Anyway, I went outside, scratching my head all morning, getting the kids ready, and walked outside, and there at the door are my gumboots. Now, there is no way I would leave gumboots because we have brown snakes here, king brown, and they're huge. And the venom, you have 15 minutes to get to a respiratory pump, or it's over.
Wow.
It's pretty severe. So there's no way I would ever leave my gumboots out. Like, I'm quite funny about it. And they were there. And I went, it's a sign. This happened. And then I left it at that. And we just went, that's another craft. That's it. But from that period on, the family changed with me. I thought, well, they said I had changed. But to me, the family all just stopped communicating with me. They would stop calling me mum. They said I smelt different. The animals wouldn't come up to me either. It wasn't just the family, it was the animals. I was sort of like I was a foreigner. Started affecting my relationship with Richard as well. So he said, you just been doing too many regresses with Nev. You've lost it. You're going to have to go and do kinesiology. So I went and did kinesiology because we use that as our tool. We don't go to a doctor. We use kinesiology to work out what it is and see if we can solve it ourselves. So we went to kinesiology. She checked everything. Kinesiology is so good because
it is.
Your body holds stuff like a big cupboard, and it has these little shelves that it just doesn't want to, just shoves it all in and says, we'll deal with that another day. And you hold on to it, and you can hold on to it your whole life. And it can cause illness and discomfort, can cause problems with others. Kinesiology is a great way of having a practitioner ask your body the truth. Your body.
Yes.
So it's asking your mind to be quiet. You go sit over in that corner for a bit. I'm just going to talk with your body and the ions, and you can come back after I've finished. So I like that. So we're putting the mind over in the corner for a bit and asking the body. Anyway, she went through everything and she said, she kept saying, "You're a clean slate. You're a clean slate." I was like, that's odd. So it's not my birth. It's not my mother. It's not some past life thing. It's not some school teacher at school. It's not something someone said to me at the shops or at school when I was a child. And she said, "I'm going to do one last thing." And she checked if it was an outer worlder, which I'd never had kinesiologists do that before. So I thought that was really odd. I was like, outer world? What's an outer worlder? That sounds really exciting. Outer worlder. And it was just took her straight to that date.
Wow.
So, yeah, I
Well, so
realized that I wasn't possessed. So it wasn't the fact that it was a craft. It was more, I was more excited that I wasn't possessed because I didn't know how to deal with possession. You know how you hear about possession and all that sort of stuff. It sounded kind of dark.
Yeah. Do you think you were a walk-in at that stage, or something had been added to your soul that made you the smell and your frequency different? What do you think took place at that time for you?
Well, so in this time frame, so I met a lovely lady who's amazing. She's a guru, Mary Rodwell. And Mary Rodwell and Dolores were friends. Dolores told me to contact Mary. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to argue with Dolores. So I contacted Mary, and Mary met the family, and she was quite amazed by the whole situation of the family. And then I got a message from Mary a month later because we'd started putting videos and things up, and she said, "Have you ever done a hypnosis?" And I was like, no, and I don't even know what hypnosis was. I had to Google search what hypnosis meant. And the origin meaning of hypnosis is dream oasis. And I was like, oh,
that's interesting.
Oh, I love that. That just made me go, yeah, I'll do it. So Mary did a hypnosis. I was really nervous because I didn't know. And she just said, look, she said, I've got a feeling you're going to be really good at it, but if there's nothing there, nothing will come out. It's like kinesiology. And I said, okay. So we did hypnosis, and she said she didn't have to do anything. She said a few questions, specific ones that she wanted to know. But they gave me information. Neff was up in the craft with me. So it was myself, Neff, and my oversoul on the craft.
Wow.
And the beings that had us were disciples from Richard's oversoul group. So they weren't his group, they were disciples. They weren't allowed to interfere too much with the three of us. They had to just download information and also collect information. So it was like a fair trade, which I was happy with, a fair trade. Whenever I went into a bit of fear with the feeling of it, I was in like a gyroscope sort of. I was spinning, literally spinning. And my body had been melted, so I was liquid or gelatine, and I could push my hands through inside out. I could turn my whole body inside out myself, which was at first odd and very alarming. And so what they would do is when they could feel the fear come on, because the fear would shut down it would be like a bad connection on the internet. So they could feel it coming because it would slow things down. So they would spin me upside down and I would look down at the horse herd. And that was my way of knowing that I wasn't with the herd. I was with them. but the horses were staying there, so I knew that I felt safe. They showed me how close it came, this alignment where we are now, how fine it was, how they called it a near miss. They showed me how important our ions are with ourselves, but with each other, and how we should have the utmost respect for each other's ions and allow each other's ion space to be with each other, because sometimes you come into meeting someone and it's too much for the other person, or so there was great respect, which I really admired these things they were showing me. They showed me how there's no time. There's absolutely no time. They actually took me on time travel. With the kinesiology, we worked out that I had been gone for the equivalent of 10 years with them. But apparently it was only 15 minutes with me here, so that took me a while to understand. But an astronaut helped me, literally a NASA astronaut helped me understand it, because that's what they actually practice on the space stations and stuff. And they call it 10 and back or 20 and back.
Yep. Yes.
And apparently you can't go longer. There's a certain time frame, because otherwise it sends them loopy.
Yeah.
Obviously they've sent people loopy. And I was like, wow, that sounds like Jason Bourne type movie, Anyway, but it's funny how, I'm plodding along as a mum and a fashion photographer, and now Neff, and now the ETs, and then you have these other people that are full on into all this stuff. They have terminologies and people and dates and codes, and they go and they're confirming what I've said,
which is a beautiful thing.
It's amazing. Yes. For me, because again, it doesn't matter to me or any of our family member what people think, because these have literally happened to us, these experiences. Yes. What happened today to us happened today. And it doesn't matter if someone comes along and says, well, that you couldn't have done that. That's your imagination. But you go, okay, that's great. I'm allowing you to spin that story over there because that's fine. So
it's not good to deny your own experience. And one shouldn't really. Some people do, some people can, because, excuse me, it's outside their square box of wanting to understand. But if you're being real to yourself, you cannot deny your own experience.
This farmer today, Jude, he's 80 and she had all these grubby clothes on, but he was so happy to share the stories and tell us how he's helping the neighbours. And the neighbours are freaking out. His wife's gone for 3 hours on a craft.
Wow.
Yeah, like, who do I call? You can't call the police.
No.
What are they going to do?
Yes, exactly. But you've got each other now too, which is so lovely. You've got someone else that sounds like a good, strong, stalwart person you can connect with.
Yeah, and I will always remember, whether we meet him again or not, I will always remember meeting him and how proud he was to help his neighbours and share, even though they might think he was crazy.
I wonder if we could talk about now, please, historical realms and sacred sites, and how that amalgamates into what we have been talking about with things that go bump in the night, or different frequencies that we have with the planet at this time and going forward.
So a lot of the time, like today, we were taken to locations. Now, they just say, go there. They don't say, oh, it's because it's this, it's because that's that. And you turn up and there's sacred trees or sacred sites, or, you know, it's a Bora ring that's a hidden one, or like temple tombs where you have caves, or it's like Indiana Jones and those movies, because I used to watch that when I was a kid, and now I'm rocking up to these locations that you know, the little girls rock that they got from under the water from the sirens. They said, go here. So I'm acknowledging, because I'm not shooting as a photographer. So what else? Well, I'll acknowledge, because it feels good. You go and get to see a beautiful location, possibly. And so we end up at this location, and then how is that big boulder there, or with the carvings on it? Like, how? Who? And then the other thing that happens is military craft will turn up, or we always call them the alphabet cars, the 3 Ys cars, or a white car, which is intimidating.
Yeah.
Turn up, and or these people with piercing blue eyes.
Wow.
Or they're completely bald, shiny, shiny, shiny heads, and they're really tall, like mantis type looking humans.
So they know what's going on.
And yeah, the way a few sort of psychic people have described it is that they're literally tapping into their energy, and because it's so immediate. Like we had one lady, we were on. We drove. We left at 2 a.m. and we're on a mountaintop at sunrise with the girls and Richard and the boys. And so a lot of the times you do these groundings and clearings, they're kind of anticlimactic almost, because you've done it and then you're here and it took you 6 hours and you're like, so now what? Well, we were out at this location in Queensland. And this hill connects not only to the Pleiades in the indigenous people, but the Easter Islanders as well. So it's quite a amazing location. And we're there and no one's there. And then all of a sudden, just as I've finished the grounding words that I said, Pocahontas turns up. This lady with hair down to past her knees in a plait walks past us like a ghost. And she smiles, makes eye contact, beautiful brown eyes. And the kids are like, Mum, Pocahontas. And it was very ghost-like, very quiet. And then she walked right on the edge of the cliff, like right on the edge of the cliff. And I went into protection mother mode, going, oh no, is she a jumper or something? And then she disappeared. And I was like, kids, you are not to look over the edge, because there's no boundary fences or anything.
Wow.
We ended up seeing her walk off into the distance. So I realized that she wasn't a jumper, but there's just no way that I know that it was like that she was trying to prove that she was of different energy, because she could do that. There's just no way because in this location there's leaf matter, so if there's sticks and leaf matter, there might not actually be anything underneath it. It's a sheer drop. They abseil up this.
Wow.
So your heart is beating like this. And
maybe an affirmation, and if she's there as an affirmation for what you've done.
I guess what I'm saying is that we get these confirmations straight away.
Yeah.
Like today we had 3 leprechaun type energies from different. We had one visually in front of us. Then we had one on the phone, and then we had another one through our son. So
Beautiful.
I'm just going to have to call out. We got a Dalmatian here who's deaf, and he's become really loud. The kids say, "Oh, Mum, he can't understand what he's saying. Don't be mean to him because he's deaf."
Oh. I find when I do ceremony, at times, I'll find the wind will whip up at the time we are activating whatever we're doing. And then when it's all over, the wind stops, things like that. Or I'll get an affirmation of someone I see with the inner eye that comes in, who's often someone that's been a part of that place that we are activating in a way that we are changing the energy fields. And that's interesting. And also with the whales the other day too, Elsa, did you get any confirmation about the changing of the song lines with the whales?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I'll just tell everyone briefly that when I had a reading with Elsa, she said to me, "Do you know anything about the whales? Have you got connection with the whales?" And I said, "Well, no, not majorly. I love being near water, but not really that connection." And then a friend of mine on Facebook sent me this picture about stranded whales near or in Byron Bay. And I flipped it over to Elsa. And then it came to me, or between us, that maybe we could do something to stop the stranding. And so I went down to Brighton Beach here in Christchurch on the 7th of the 7th of the 7th. And new birthing was also my birthday. And I did new birthing for the whales with new song lines. And I saw golden lines charging up, not blue, not white, not silver, golden. So you got confirmation, Elsa. That's brilliant. Was it
that
good?
was one of, that was the big thing that we had to do today.
Oh, wow.
And it took me back to quite dramatic dreams I've had, to three wise men. It took me to Pyramid Hills. It took us to Indigenous grounds where tunnels are as well. Like we there's a lot of sort of the darker type energy that has, we really don't voice much of it, but yeah, there's all that sort of stuff too. Today was a really big one because it really kind of, everything that we'd been doing for the last 3 years, it just made purpose of it today. We had some really some messages of family members that they're safe. So that was important. Yeah, so many gifts today. It was just one
Beautiful.
of those. But I could see if I hadn't rested and I hadn't done my works prior, today could have been a real mess day. And so I guess sharing that it takes practice, because the more you practice, the more it just becomes like driving a car. So it just becomes no big deal. It doesn't become that weird thing that you do. It's just, okay, I brush my teeth, then I do that. I go put the marble down. Okay, get in the car. Like it just becomes, yeah. So and this is what Nef and Akem's energy is about masculine and feminine energy, whether it's just in you or in a partnership. It can be either way. And they relinquished all the gods, because the God is us. There is no God above the other. And so then you have respect for ions again. And they worship the sun because the sun gave them information and life. And they respected the water. And they did rituals with the setting of the sun and the rising of the sun. And they did it with all their family members. And they practiced it daily. They practiced this daily, and they were not liked for this because it dissolved a lot of, which we've helped them with too, by the way. We've helped them with a few moles. We've helped them with digestion, and then they help us with things too. So they've helped me read the hieroglyphs differently.
I remember you saying that.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. And I can't read hieroglyphs, but the little girls can read Arabic as well. So they've learnt. It's interesting though, also with the family, is how they don't particularly understand the whole spiritual people out there, but they're still willing to offer information or offer codes or offer help. They're very shy about it. We had Jeannie come on our first Zoom session. I was speaking to a lovely lady. They can't hear or see my screen because I'm turned to the wall. And this lovely lady was so kind. She showed us her beautiful crystals, and Jeannie like forced her way in on the Zoom. It's just not normal for Jeannie to do that with a stranger. And she said, I want to come in. And I was like, okay. So she came in, and a lot of what happened in that session prevailed today, which I haven't spoken to this lady yet, but I'm excited to. But Jeannie saw the same beings that I saw as well. So I just, but how did she know to come on when we were in a talk for an hour or so, and then she came in at that moment when the crystals were coming up. How did they know?
Bing. Something switched on.
Yeah.
But
allowing all this, Jude, also allowing all this.
Yes. I think allowing is
and that's what
one.
you do. I love what you do. You allow it.
Thank you.
You said you were honest. You said, look, I don't know anything about the whales. And then a day later, the whales came up and you allowed that information to come through.
Yes. It's like you knew before I did what I was going to be doing. That was pretty remarkable. And if it's made a positive change, I'm very, very grateful about that.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that this is where the new way is. And it's tricky because there's no one that's done this before. We really are. It's a new way. And by you sharing with someone else in the group, and then someone else sharing with it, and then you share with the grandkids, or you share with the shopkeeper, it sounds like not much at all, but that's how they used to do it before universities.
Yeah.
And this is the way forward. And it will become a fair trade.
Yes.
It won't be you dumping all your information onto someone. It will literally be a share. So you have a share, Iron's happy, and then you go off, and then those ions share with other happy ions. And it sounds like this happy world, and there'll be challenges, there'll be things that go on, but this is expansion.
Yes. Very much so.
And it will come back to it will either be forced back to this, or it will come back in an ease and grace way. It just depends on people like yourselves in this group, how you walk off from this Zoom, because you can start this right now. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to have 8 kids. Cats do help though, apparently. Yeah, you don't really, you just have to have everything that you have there with you right now, because that's what you're meant to do.
Yeah.
But people keep waiting for something else to come along. When really, when I speak to these people in one-on-one Zooms, I just see like a whole bunch of miracles right there.
Everyone is a miracle. Everyone.
Mm,
And to be
yeah.
here at this time in this great change, how
It
privileged we
sounds
are in some ways to be here, to be part of the change, to hold that light, to hold that grounding with what's from above to below, to from the heart, to be here now to help make the change. We are
it is.
privileged. Although I don't always see it every day. I sort of think, why don't things hurry up and sort themselves out? But then it's like, what can I do? What can this little me, do to help make a difference in the world? And, everyone here in this beautiful group, we're all doing our bit, which is amazing, which becomes bigger than the sum of its parts, basically, doesn't it?
Well, what's amazing is that um, we're doing these sessions. Because it's not my profession to do these sessions, but they just work. So we're doing these sessions, and I'm starting to see that everyone's just needing this next step. They need the confidence to. It's this fear and doubt program is so thick in us all. It's you have to undo it fragilely, not to freak your mind out. Because I've had some friends just recently go loopy, completely off the bend. They were spiritual advisors with big audiences, and they've gone off the deep end. And my heart goes out to them, because I too was that. I know I can relate, because the doubt and the fear creep in. It's designed to creep in. That's the program.
Well, if you
And
think I'm a professional at this, we know otherwise. I'm very, very new to Zoom calls, and it's another thing you said I would go global, and I thought, oh, we'll see about that one. And look what's happened. I mean, it's just you know things you do, but
yeah.
it's par for the course, and the time is now. And if I can do it, crikey! I mean, anyone
Yeah.
could do it, basically.
And then you go, do what? And I'm like, but a year ago, that was me saying, do what? What am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? So then the universe was really kind and started making my teeth fall out of my head to
Yeah,
help me go, well, we're going to give you a bit more of a push because you're not listening.
yeah.
I was like, okay. And you can keep testing it. You can test the universe. Don't advise it. Once you learn it, I don't like to test it, because then it sort of gives me a little bit of a nudge or a kick in the bum back. So I just know it's easier to go that way than test it. I've done the testing. I don't need to test it anymore. I've cried the tears. I've gone through the depression of it. I've gone through the sadness. None of that works. Thanks for showing me.
Yeah, it has its time, but then
Yeah.
we grow and you realize we can do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it does gift you. It does gift you. It's just also you have to change the way you look at gifts. So you start the small, and then it will build you up. I mean, some people have it in a bang, but I don't think most people are designed to have the whole bang experience. Because what happens when you have the big bang experience, you actually have to go back. And we've had a few of these people that have interviewed me say that it has happened for them in a bang way, whether it's an ET or something, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. and they've had to go back. And yeah, so I feel that they like to build us.
And of course, these things can happen in generational lines. They can happen from soul life to soul life, often as a continuation. There are so many parts to that story. One of the questions I'd love to ask you is, how do you navigate the inner world reality, astral realms, and how that relates to the movie The Labyrinth that I remember you talking about?
Well, The Labyrinth is great because she's a romantic, the girl in the movie. And she just loves the spoken word, which I loved in The Labyrinth. But it's also confusing in The Labyrinth, and all this. The Labyrinth is very similar to Alice in Wonderland as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of these films, and you just go, they're crazy. They go into this crazy land, this fantasy land, journey to the center of the earth, and things like that. So these have happened more than once in these storytellers. And how do I mix reality with the other realms going on? I slow my speech down, which is really tricky for me. And I make sure that it's unconditional, the messages coming through. And I can now tap into what type of frequency it is. So then I know which direction to head for from where it was coming from. So if it was a whale communicating, I would know the whale history as well. So not only do you have to understand the incarnation of that soul here, but also the karmic lines that they've had to go through. So being understanding of that, and also understanding that when their information comes from certain dimensional beings, it hurts sometimes, like sharp pains and things. And I actually have to go, I have to pull away. The way we worked out that it wasn't just me was other family members would have those sharp pains. That's why it was really good that there's 10 of us,
Yeah.
and all different ages. So it couldn't be because I'm 50 or Richard's 60 or puberty, because it was happening to someone who was 3 or the dog. We've added to that.
Wow. So what is
yeah.
happening, Elsa, when you're getting the pain? Is it a dissonance in the frequencies? What is actually causing that?
It's just our ions aren't used to it. We all went through it with the comet in January, February this year. That comet that went past, which is ET, and the hydrogen ions on the comet went past Earth, and most ions here on the planet have never, in these avatars, had that information. So it just threw us all. But it wasn't just us. It threw our cars. It threw my washing machine.
Oh.
Our washing machine was throwing me codes from the comet.
Wow.
Yeah, big codes. And so it was the quad bike, it was the boat, because anything that had water, it was getting affected. And it wasn't just, I started then speaking up about it because I thought, this is strange. And then I noticed in chat groups around the world and interviews that, now, hang on a second, this is happening around the world. So this comet is upgraded all our ions. trees, clouds. I noticed clouds start behaving differently. How does that happen?
Yeah.
I mean, I noticed the trees felt different, their energy, everything felt different. A lot of people crossed over in that time because of it. So, and
So
that upgrade with the irons, some people in the Mercury retrogrades or the cycles haven't fully integrated all the information in their irons. Like they might have had a blockage or a damaged nerve or a broken bone so they'll have to come back round and have those, stalemate weeks where they got to.
Yeah, got to integrate that.
But
Yeah.
if you went to the medical system, they're going to give you a tablet.
Yes.
And that just blocks it all.
Yes, of course.
But if you share this in a group, so we shared in a group through the stalled sun, don't go up on ladders. Stay close to the ground. We've had 3 family members have big falls and hit their heads. Please stay off. Don't go up. Then we started getting messages from, just people at the shops and that their wife has gone into hospital. She fell off, just randomly fell off a ladder or fell off the stairs. And what we actually noticed was that the stalled sun really wanted us all to stay on the ground as beings. So we shared that out and I got flooded with messages going, I was just going to get up the tree and chainsaw and I had gut feelings not to do it. And I'm so glad I read your text not to get up.
Wow.
And they said, because the neighbor down the road, he's broken his leg. And I was just like, wow. So by me just sharing something that I thought, oh, maybe it's a bit silly, but I'll just share it anyway, helped other people not. And then they didn't have to go and get medication or have an operation. So see how this is dissolving the matrix?
Yes.
This is the new way, by sharing. By Jude sharing about the whale helped me today. But if Jude didn't send me that information and I didn't send Jude the information prior to that, then the sharing's not there. So there's no acknowledgement.
I love the way that happened. And I love
it's
that
beautiful.
It's organic. Which is the way it should be. Because, we're being real. We're not being false. We're just who we are and sharing. And yeah, it was lovely. The day I went down, it was freezing cold. There was a hell of a wind blowing, but I did my thing. And when I got onto doing my wee ceremony, it didn't feel that cold. And I gifted to the beach and I sang. I actually chanted for the whales with the new song lines. So if that's been good for them, then I'm grateful.
Well, whales are so. The reason whales are so big is literally they're big, is because they are the set A beings, and we've been asked not to call them whales because whales is their pain body, and it's given to them by humans, and they just don't need to keep reliving it. So they ask us to call them set A beings. So the set A beings are literally the first beings on the planet. And they were able to, the reason they were able to be here on the planet was because their body was able to hold it. Their songline travels around the globe. Now, they used to travel through the land of Australia, through that Manga era. Guess where they go past? Byron Bay, then they come down Devil's Marble, then they go past Mount Connor, which everyone forgets Mount Connor. Mount Connor, then they go past Esrock and the Olgas, and then up and out through Exmouth. That's where they used to travel. Guess what we found today?
What?
100 million year old whale bones.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Those same whales. Now, the whales didn't look the same as they do now. Whales have shapeshifted too. So, whales, when you look back at them, whales are literally that being called Set. Now, what have I been going on about is the rise and the Set. So there's
Yeah.
there's something big going on with that, and whales actually used to walk on land, and the biggest whale museum in the world is in Egypt, and we were shown where that whale museum is. This is the dovetailing, the synchronicity, the opening of the new Egyptian museum is called GEM, the Great Egyptian Museum, which is our first daughter's name. And so I was like, okay, so you want me to check out this museum? So I checked out museum, and I love architecture. And they showed me the architecture, and they gave me the coordinates for mapping. And the coordinates goes right down through Nubura, right down to Africa, to all the diamond mines. Took me through a marking of a chem's face on the land of Egypt to Mars. And it also showed me this greatest whale museum. And I looked up at the greatest whale museum. It's my maiden name. And it means to hide.
Wow.
My maiden name is Hiton. I can't make this stuff up. Just can't
Wow.
make it up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is it about the whales or the setars and hiding?
This is what I love. This is where the New Zealanders and the Aussies come in. Is they knew that something would boil up from New Zealand and Australia first in the ascension process. That's why they've been so tough on us, and not so much on us, but also so tough on the indigenous peoples of the lands, both lands. Now, they thought the information was going to come through the indigenous ones, and some of it has. They didn't prepare for the Magi ones because they can't remote view them. And the Magi ones are everybody here in this
Oh,
room.
wow.
A Magi one is someone who is aware of they're aware of things. And if you're starting to become aware of things, and then you start sharing, and then you start acknowledging, and then you start acting, now you're being a true creator. Now you're designed to be who that is, you, a creator. The only reason you're here, creation creates so that you create. That's it. If you're not creating you, what are you doing? So you got to find what you nothing that someone else does will excite you as much. You have to find what you love, what feels good. And it could be cooking, it could be playing cards, could be drawing, could be just planting, could be just sitting out in nature. Like, I honestly, could be walking in mud. Or it doesn't have to be a clean job either. I always say that to the kids. It can be messy, but there'll be something that makes your heart feel good, or your body and your eyes feel good. And some people have had such troubled lives, but they might be able to use that now as a gift to all these ones coming through that are they'll be coming through in waves, let me tell you. And they're gonna need not a shoulder to cry on, but just realize that, wow, look, this person's really pulled through. Look at them. Look how happy they are now. Well, that could be me. Like, shine light for them.
So important.
And yeah, because I mean, I hear some really sad stories, and how can these people be alive? And they share these stories, and it uplifts. You see it uplift others in chat groups and stuff. I said, "See, did you see what just happened there? Did you see that person? You can see them lift up, literally."
Beautiful. Star speakers awake.
Star speakers. Star speakers awake.
It's caused a very interesting reaction, hasn't it? If this is not an appropriate question, we can skip it, Elsa.
See, it does it to me too.
If this is not an appropriate question, we can skip it.
So they've just leveled me up. Let's see. Just ask one more. If I start coughing, we'll
No
change.
worries. Prophecies and insights, important things to know right now.
Oh, okay. So we've been in the mother energy, which is this golden light you spoke about. And now we are coming into a clear masculine energy. Now, it doesn't mean that I have to be masculine, but they're really wanting us to act. And you said the words, so I know you can handle this information. You said, chant it in. And I'm speaking to New Zealanders, which is the land of the great warriors. And that's what they want us to be, is great warriors now. And it's kicked in with the 27th of June, which was something very personal that happened to our family. And again this morning. And it has to do with the rise and set of the suns. So sunset and sunrise might be important, one or the other or both to you. But if you can do something for yourself that can empower you, we're in 777 phase. I thought it was to the 16th, but it's to the 25th. And it's about being and being, so being with yourself. And it's two of you. So the more you can be and be with yourself, the more you can power yourself. We're coming to the date which predates the Bible. It's the 18th of July. And it's called Grand Design. we were told this through an AI being code on an interview and by a galaxy. So I think that's quite funny because, and then we were told by Bible studies. I was like, how does that cross link? But it did. Then we come into, after the 18th, we come into splendid days, and that lasts just before Lionsgate
Yep. 8-8.
phase.
Yes.
Yeah, but the Lionsgate phase starts earlier. I think it starts on the 26th.
Oh.
It builds up, and that's where a lot of people get confused, is that it doesn't just turn up, it builds up. So the solstice was 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. So it's a building up phase. And some days it will be, we find with different family members, just in our family, 2 days before is more intense for this group in the family. And then the solstice is for that person. And then, yeah, so we notice how it affects just in our family. This energy that is here at the moment is intense. I will say it is very intense. Please make sure you're having water, salts, irons, dark greens. Please rest in the sun for 15 minutes each day. Some type of, even if it's overcast, UV. If you can't get UV, even just watching a candle or flame is really good. I really have noticed that this year, where we've had lots of really heavy overcast days, and just putting on the fire pit outside, how it not only lifted my energy, but all the animals and the plants and the kids. This energy is going to take a lot of, dissolve a lot of things. But I'm sharing it with you guys because you can take it the other way. You really can. And don't get too frustrated if you don't know what it is that you have to do, but just knowing that it is there for you and it's got your back rather than it's out to get you. Because if you're getting a sore pain in your ear, the first thing you're going to think is there's something wrong. You're not going to go, hang on, someone's trying to communicate with me. It's just not how we're programmed. Take notice of electrical, glass, water, rain, mist, bathrooms. Some of the biggest information you'll get is when you're in the shower or going to the bathroom.
Always near water. Yeah.
Yep. If glass breaks or plates break, things like that, pay attention. Globes, flickering lights. Maybe something is trying to talk to you. And look at where you're living. Like, why am I living here? What is under the ground? What is it? Water under the ground? Is there special stones? Sometimes just living in the city with asphalt, like if you look into the energies of asphalt, like, or concrete, it's quite amazing what it's made of. If you can just keep alert in this time frame, and understand that it is big energy coming. And then we go into Lionsgate, and then we'll go into a Mercury retrograde, and then you'll have a bit more of a lull. We used to look at Mercury retrogrades as a bit of a pain in the butt, but now I'm like, oh, thank you. I need a rest. I need some downtime. I need a breather. So we look at Mercury retrogrades, especially this year, more than anything, as a nice, oh, take a breath. You know, I'm happy for the rest. I'm happy for the redoing. I'm happy to redo that job. If that means I get a break from all that high energy for a bit, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because then we have one more spin cycle, I think. I think we're still in the second spin cycle of this year. We have one more big one, and that's supposed to be bigger again. So
Watch the
it's
space.
just yeah, well, it's not to scare people. It's just to say we've all been wanting it to change.
Would you like us
The
to
other
open?
thing that
Sorry, carry on.
well, this might help. Just the question. The
Thank
next
you.
thing is we're in a phase now, and I call it the Nanny McPhee phase. It's where we are now. We have to assist and show the wanters how to be needers. And you go, what does that mean? And you will never fill up the cup of a wanter. It's just continually filling up. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. And they're living so far in the future, which is no man's land. There's no healing in no man's land. Oh, but it used to be like that. Well, that's no man's land too. They're not in the present.
Yeah.
So come back to the present. What do I need today? Not what do I need in 10 years' time? What do I need today? What do I need at lunchtime? What do I break it down a little bit into smaller increments so that it's just a little bit easier with this big energy coming through. So then once we get it, then we show the wanters how to come back to needing. Now, to need, you have to kneel, surrender. I mean, if they just said that prayer that Jude said at the beginning, it would be great. You have to allow. And that's what the wanters have to now go through. They have to learn to stop wanting and realize what they actually need. And there'll be a few lessons.
Thank you. Thank you. Are you happy to open it up to questions, or have you had enough for the evening?
Oh, I'm so excited.
Right, we can ask you. In fact, Rose, if you would like to say what you'd like to say now, if you'd like to unmute, please. And lovely to see you.
Hi, lovely to be here. Elsa, who is Neff? You were talking about Neff.
Oh, Neff is, as I know her, Nefertiti. So
Okay.
Still laugh when I say it.
And I have one other question. What time is it in Byron Bay now?
We are 2 hours behind you, and I think it's 7.
I'm in Europe. I want to find out what the time difference is.
Sorry. It is 7 p.m. So
7
that's why
p.m.
it's so noisy here, probably because of the kids having dinner.
Right, thanks.
So we're Wednesday. So Wednesday, 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And we're 2 hours ahead, which is great. Thank you, Rose.
Yeah, I've worked out New Zealand time, but I'm still unsure about Australian. Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question to ask Elsa? Karen. Elsa, this is my daughter Karen.
Hi, Elsa. Lovely to meet you.
Hi.
I've heard lots about you. It's all very good. You mentioned earlier about communications. You might get lights flickering, your glasses breaking. Had all of that. Garage doors starting not to operate. So electrical stuff. How do we do the communications? What do we do there now?
So I'm so glad to meet you. Okay, this is fun. Okay, this is what, so now I'm having to teach my kids this, right? So, Mum, there is someone throwing saddle gear at us in the tack room. And I said, well, what do you mean they're throwing gear at you? We go in there and they're really rude. They throw it on the ground. And if you saw us throw it on the ground, you'd get mad at us. So they really want our attention because we're going to get in trouble for what they've done. And this kept happening. So they're acknowledging that there's a being or entity in the stable area, and it's being physical with them, which is a big deal for beings to be physical. So it's stepping it up, right? So the kids come in and say, okay, well, let's work out who they are. Are they an entity? Are they a lost soul? Who are they? Are they fae? Are they goblins? Like, so you could use cards like tarot card. I'm not a tarot card person. I like the pretty oracle cards. You could use dowsing or rods. Some people wait for songs or smells. Our kids, we did have the Book of Answers. It was a really big, thick book like this, and the Dalmatian puppy got to it, so started ripping out the answers. Didn't like that answer. Didn't like that. So Jerry rolled them up, teared all the pages out, rolled them up, and tied each one into a scroll. And so she's got this huge box of all these scrolls. So you dive your hand in and pull it out. And so whenever anyone comes over, she just puts this box in front of them and goes, ask them a question. And so you can do it those ways. You can test your dreams or test your meditations and go in with intentions and meditations. You can scry people. Scrying's a bit full on for some people. Scrying is where you stare at someone and then they could shapeshift, or entities can come out, or ghosts can come. You can stare into mirrors, mirror magic. Staring into the sun. Oh, that's a really good one. Every doctor will tell you that's a danger. And you have to, again, build it up slowly. When I look at the sun, I actually hear noise, different shudders. And then I realized that I was actually hearing noise. I do get symbols as well. And the symbols always come through in a form of azimuth or ruins, like a ruin type. At first I thought they were like hieroglyphs, but it's more like those ruin, so you see them on ruins. That's another thing you can do is ruins. Dominoes, dices. You can get your own rings or earring and hang it on a piece of hair. Crystals. One thing I love doing is I ask the animals. So I'll ask the bird that's just flown in front of me, or the insect I start talking to. I've had some of my best conversations with flies. And the kid's like, you're not talking to blowflies again, are you? You can laugh at me, but I've just had some great information. So do you want to hear what the fly said? And they're like, all right, come on, tell us. And some of it's ancient. And there's no way I would know this information. We actually come from insects, our closest DNA. So insects are a really big one. So if you have insects where you're washing up the dishes or where you're brushing your teeth or where you cockroaches or anything, they're communicators. They have antennas. They can see other realms. Most of them can see multiple realms at once. They are. It's quite amazing. Insects. So electricals always. Also listening to others. I'll be listening to others, and it's almost like I'm in not daydream mode, but like I'm just sort of listening to someone's voice, and then I'll go, there's the word, there's the word, there's the word, there's the word, and it will take me not only to that word, but it will take me on a whirlwind journey of that whole word or the history of that word, and I'll be able to have information just from that one word. So there's multiple ways of doing it. And I loved what Jude said. You know, she would see whirlywinds. Jeannie loves whirlywinds, our littlest one. She goes, there they are. There's the wind ones. She knows that that's how they talk to her. Has that helped, or has that made it worse?
Well, yeah, I'm aware of a lot of the ways of communicating, although I'm not very good at it. I was just specifically because you said glass breaking and electrical, it's just something that's recently been happening, and I've done a lot of work on clearing, so I was
just saying that you acknowledge it is once you acknowledge it. So when I acknowledge an animal like a bird, so a wild bird, if I acknowledge a wild bird and I'm not on a schedule, so I'm just in no time, so acknowledge a bird, generally that bird will have something for me. Sometimes they actually give me a gift, the birds. Yeah. I'm like they've dropped pieces of wire or twigs in shapes, and I won't actually know what the shape is, and I'll take a photo and I'll see a shadow in it, and then I'll realize I'm supposed to give that picture to someone else, and then they go, oh, that means this like, well, the bird gave it to me.
That's cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Andy, how are you tonight?
I'm bursting with happiness and joy.
Wonderful. That's great.
Elsa, thank you. What an awesome, awesome discussion and fascinating. I'm just trying to decipher my notes. Got to go back to the start. You mentioned an act for the universe, and I'd like to know how that works. You've mentioned the acknowledge, like the birds, the animals, the insects, and taking notice of electrical glass, rain, mist, etc. How does it all tie in? Like, how does the act work? Is it after the acknowledgement of, like when a sparrow flies up, you can say, hey, little birdie, and they'll sit there and look at you and then fly off? How the acknowledgement, I sort of understand. The act part, how does that actually work in practical terms? And then the second part of that is does that apply to current needs? Like if someone was looking for a job or has a need for provisions, etc., or solutions to be found to problems which are already in motion. So how does that act work?
This is such a good question. Thank you. Okay. So you're in your body for senses. That's it. Everything else does not matter. Nothing makes sense. And I've used this in interviews before. Nothing makes sense. So no thing matters, only sense, literally. So you're in your body for all your senses. So the more that you acknowledge all your senses to the best of your ability at that moment, because sometimes your senses aren't working, so you might have blocked ear, or you can't walk that day, you've hurt your foot or something, but your senses for that moment, feel them, sense them, be in them. Literally, this 7-7, can't stress it enough, being in those senses. That is what you're here to act on. That's it. Everything else is just, you could just go like that, a distraction. The gifts and the needs. So, I had a big realize, I've been wanting a grand outside table. And I've been wanting an outside table. It had to be solid because our kids are rough, and we've got the horses and the dogs, and had to be a big solid table because it would just melt. But, you know, didn't have the funds to go and get a big solid table. I had a big interview. I talk about AI, and I didn't quite resonate with how he said it, and I had to say out loud how I interpreted it. Once I interpreted it and said it out loud, within an hour of me doing that, we got the table.
Wow.
Table. Origin meaning of table is understanding. Not only was the table white, which they knew I was going to paint black, so it was the yin and the yang as well. So they gave me both understandings of this AI meaning, which I haven't really shared yet because I will though, but I'm just making sure before I share it that everyone's ready to hear it. But what was interesting is that we live out in the middle of the country. For us to get something in an hour is huge. Now, I'd been wanting that table for a year. I've been wanting or needing a beehive to start because I love honey. And I helped a lady in Ballarat because it's a gold mining town. I helped a man in Omaha, I think, on a gold fields out there, at pretty much within 24 hours of each other. And then a brand new, really expensive beehive turns up as a gift. I did not ask for the beehive.
Awesome.
Today, I had news that a family member was okay. 2 years I've been waiting for that information. It's a long time. So, but how did the acts that I did today with and meeting an ET man, and how did that affect this? I honestly don't know, but it does. And I trust it so much that it just turns up as I need it.
Would you say the more you give, the more you get? Is this sort of...
Yeah. A really good book to read. And I was given this book by a leprechaun type being, and he also did kinesiology. He literally looked like a leprechaun. He gave me this book he photocopied it for me. It's called The Game of Life by Florence Chevelle. Her nickname's Flossie.
Florence Scovel Shin. It's awesome.
There you go. You cannot separate the giver from the gift.
Yeah.
Neff and Akem practice this as well. And it's all about the vibration of your voice. Now, how does that work? Okay, well, just say, so that's working great. So I've got a beehive, I've got a table. I had news today. Well, how is this working when I go out in the middle of the ocean with a whale? It does. It works with whales. They're really big. When you're up close next to these whales, they are huge, and it's working with whales. How I've had it working here on the land with wild dogs, dingoes. In Australia, we have a thing called the Tasmanian tiger that is supposed to be extinct. Well, we've seen it twice. Twice. A male and a female. Now, I saw it with Richard first time, and I was like, that's crazy. And then the next time we were coming home from surfing at the beach, and we stopped and got the kids prawn crackers, which we normally don't buy but they're just so crunchy, and we just thought, oh, just get them prawn crackers. It might keep them quiet for at least till we get home. They were all munching on the prawn crackers. So, 8 kids crunching on prawn crackers, you can't really hear much except the prawn crackers. And then we saw another thiasin, but the whole family saw it. And I was like, did you all see that? He's supposed to be extinct. So history told me he's extinct. He's not extinct. He's just proven the impossible. So I class that as a gift as well. I mean, how many times can you say you've seen thiasins twice? Like,
When you act, are
Yes.
you led to do certain things, or is it just an ornate knowingness of what to do? Is it a leading, or is it just like within you already?
okay, this is really good. Yesterday, I was invited to go and meet this person, which I don't normally do. It's not we're antisocial. It's just we just don't go to cafes or meet people or anything. But this person I met, and he's a big presenter in Australia that's gone quiet and it's going to come back out again. Anyway, he invited us to his farm. We were going to go out, but we were umming and ahhing because we were all feeling a bit flat. So we went and did what we had to do, and we stopped, and the girls wanted to look for crystals. And then we kind of got called back to the farm. And I sent him a message. I said, I'm so sorry, but we just can't make a 40-minute drive out there. We have to go back to the farm. We've been called back to the farm. And he said, I'm so sick. I'm so glad. So he was saying the same thing. So this is part of us all tapping in as well, like with Jude with the whales and me. I didn't know why I said whales to Jude. They just told me to say to Jude whales. And Jude said whales back to me. And then I did work today, and then it helped. Now, this information that Jude said is now that the information from the whale information was what I had from 2016. But so how does that work? Again, it's the allowing. You go, okay, I don't know what that means, but okay. And then you go to the next moment, you go, I don't know what that means either, but that's okay. And it's this allowing. And this is the stories in the Bible. You hear of Jacob's ladder and all these things. This is how they would have dreams. And if they didn't understand it, they would go and see a third person, like a seer or an oracle or a grandfather or a witch doctor. And this is how they navigated through their day to day. They weren't programmed. They watched what the goats did in the paddock, and that's that. And then the goat moved to the other side of the bush, which is really rare because they never stand on that side of the bush. So that meant something to that shepherd. But he acknowledged it, and then he acted on it. So he's reacted to the goat. See how the universe sort of have I made sense, or have I gone around in circles? I do go around in circles.
That's wonderful. And thank you very much. I'll move along. Let someone else talk. Thank you, Elsa. That's brilliant.
Thank you, Andy. It was amazing questions. Rose.
Yeah, thank you. Also, you talk a lot about whales, but what about dolphins? Can you say something about dolphins?
Dolphins are fast movers. Dolphins make eye contact with the kids more so than myself. Dolphins' energy compared to whales is so dramatically different, and you don't realize that until you see them in the water together. How their size is different. Whales have similar ways as the elephant, and the way a whale shudders, you'll actually notice in a lot of animals, and I've come to notice it in humans now. I can hear shudders in them. I don't know if they're aware of it or not, but I can hear a low hum in them. The hum's not necessarily a bad thing. The hum is sometimes just a grounding noise that they hold, and it's just their makeup. But this deeper noise that the whale makes, this deeper noise that the whale makes carries. It really does carry far. And it can not only carry once, I think it can go around a few times, and it happens with the same with the elephants, with their hum and crocodiles. Now, we've been told they're all separate, these animals, but when you go back through to dinosaurs and you actually really dissect the whole dinosaur theories, these animals actually look very similar, like a crocodile and a whale, the first whales. Dolphins and crows are probably more similar with their dialect and their intellect. A crow's intellect is just amazing, and they click. Clicking is a big thing that dolphins do. If you can count the clicks, there's codes. Counting the crow's clicks, and crows can describe what you look like to crows on multiple hills. So crows will know of you before sometimes you've arrived. So they're the ancient ones.
Thank you, Rose.
Something about the there's something about the clicking though. The clicking is very and the more that you listen to these animals and their different personalities and different their different formulas of putting it together, you'll actually start to realize that if you can listen to a tune of a bird, you're actually being downloaded from their ions, and you will actually improve your own intelligence. It's very cool.
I have one more question. I have a CD with sounds of dolphins and whales. would that help me to listen to it, or what does it do to me? Would it do anything if I listen to that?
Or whatever you are interested in, you should do. That's the first thing. So if it feels good, then keep doing more of that.
Okay.
And then and go into it with a practice. And then start to, okay, so I'm going to listen. Okay, here we go. So this is what I would suggest. Go into, okay, I'm going to listen to dolphins and whales for 3 days or a week, 7 days. Give yourself a time frame. And I'm going to listen to them in the morning, at lunchtime, and so, or even a whole moon cycle. Then I'm going to see if I have different dreams. I'm going to see if my taste buds change. I'm going to see if different people come around me. Do I start to see things differently? Am I starting to like different things and actually have an awareness of your senses for that time frame? And I would go from there. But because that's how no one taught us this stuff. That's how we had to just work it out. So how do you work it out? You monitor yourself. Trial and error. Practice, practice, practice.
I also have a CD of a nightingale, and I love listening to that. It's a really beautiful song. Yeah.
Anything that is around you, like outside, birds, that, because some people go, oh, it's just the crow. Sometimes sometimes the animal beings have such important messages. They're just waiting for you to. Sometimes, like I said, it can be a blowfly.
Mhm.
Well, there's no God above another. Like, you're not above a blowfly. The blowfly has the right to exist here just as much as you have. He might be annoying to you, but he might be annoyed that you're not listening to him. So there's no God above another.
I listen to blackbirds here. I love that when they're here. Yeah. But there's not that many other birds here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Elsa, coming to the end of our beautiful chat, are there any final words you would like to give us before you go? Is your throat still holding up all right?
Oh, I'm gonna check in on that. Because as soon as you said star, what was the word you said? Star.
Yeah.
What was it?
Look back at my notes.
See, this is
Star speakers awake.
yeah. So I'm gonna go and check on that. Because so that's how I notice in myself that's unusual, because my whole throat just went tight and constricted. I went, oh, okay. So that's my body saying, that's my senses giving me a sign. Now, I don't know what the sign was. I didn't want to cause discomfort for the group. But I had to allow the senses, and then I'll let it go, and we moved on. But I'll go and now address that, and maybe nothing will come up from it, but something might come up from it. I'm just showing you that that's how we're trial and error practice, you know.
Yeah. And if it's not right to talk about it, that's also fine.
Yeah. It's okay not to know anything. You don't have to know anything. But you have to feel. You have to feel. Oh, who's that dog? I love how in these spiritual groups, the pets come through and they always put their tail right across the screen. I love it. Just
That's Lloyd. He likes to join in on the sessions.
Well, tail. See, as soon as I see a tail, that's what this is all about. It's sharing. It's a tale to tell. It's a huge saying, tale. So
Mel had a cat before and was scratching under its chin, and you could almost see it talking. the lips were like, as it was getting scratched. It was hilarious. It was so beautiful.
Oh, well, they're always talking to us. So, but even like the names you give them, everything happens for a reason. So even the icky people that walk past you that annoy you, look into how it makes you feel. Why is it making you feel that way? Is it them? Is it me? Look at it. Everything happens for a reason. There is no randoms. You've been told that everything's random and a coincidence, so that would turn you off. So I'm here to say, turn it back on again. You're allowed to be sensitive. You're allowed to not know, and start feeling the nice things in your senses and go that way more.
That's beautiful. Well, Elsa, I want to thank you so much once again for coming on this amazing platform with your amazing wisdom and insights. It's absolute pleasure to chat with you again, and I hope you have a lot of wonderful things happening in your life that uplift with you and your family as well. And I want to thank everyone that's tuned in today for my second ever Zoom with this amazing woman, and all of you guys, of course. So I guess it's time to say goodnight and have sweet dreams, everybody. So we'll say goodnight and thank you, Elsa. God bless.
Thank you for having
you.
me. Thank you.
Elsa.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
You're
Elsa.
very
Yes.
welcome.